So you guys are probably aware of our case review history. 20 cases has passed through this studio in the last 12 months. That's insane. But I'm so happy that this is finally in my hands because I love the ITX direction. This is the Sentry from Dr. Zaber. This has been in development over 2 years, and this is a really awesome community project, and I am super happy and honored to be involved and obviously involve you guys as well. Let's go ahead, open it up and build in it, test it, and talk about it. So I've never really done an unboxing of a case before, so I hope this should be interesting. These guys are Polish, so I know a Polish word, niesamowite. It means awesome. And right away, this is the PCI bracket. Looks like we have a stand. The whole thing is steel, so it's quite heavy. Wow, so this thing is absolutely thin, like, whoa! Look at this bag that they give us. You know, in Europe, everybody's super happy with plastic bags like these. So I'm gonna keep this. So this case is only 7 liters in volume. And to give you a little bit of perspective what that means, something in relation to this ITX Tower Slim form factor, we have the Note 202 from Fractal Design that is just over 10 liters. So it's a little bit larger. And then the RVZ02 from Silverstone, which is 12 liters. So that's almost twice the size. It's a little bit larger than a PS4, let's say. The PS4 is like 4.5 liters, but damn, this is wow. Creativity is fueled by the best instruments. It doesn't always come easy, and in the process you often realize how important quality is. The RD400 by OCZ gives you quality and speed with M.2 interface, Toshiba NAND flash, and a PCI bracket, making it possible to focus on what matters. Invest in storage that makes a difference with a 5-year advanced warranty. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm pretty excited about the Sentry, but its success ultimately comes from ITX enthusiasts who are patient of this not yet finished product that's still undergoing community feedback. And realistically, the Sentry won't be available for at least another like 6 to 12 months, and I'm afraid that might diminish hungry customers. The model we have here is the most finished yet, with the inclusion of magnetized screws, refined frame bending, so all mounts align perfectly as they don't use robots or molds, but human operated bending machines. The target price for the final case will be $195, which is steep, but the Dr. Zaber guys want to satisfy a specific niche market with a limited number of production units. So from the economies of scale, this price makes sense. And I really want to emphasize just how thin the case is, being slightly wider than the I/O shield of the motherboard itself, and here it is next to the Intel NUC or a reference GPU. And it isn't meant to house an extreme system given the totally passive cooling design, so those looking for an elegant HDPC or an ITX gaming system will sure appreciate what you can do with the Sentry. Alright, let's do some more shots.
Access denied. Review in progress.
Okay. Yes, get off my case, Dmitry, and the name is actually quite fitting. It even looks like a Sentry, especially with the illuminated power button in the center that is in red. The cool thing is, my unit is number 9, which is very interesting to think about, and this is the only spot on the entire case where any branding is visible, and I really appreciate this minimal frame design. So let's begin with the feedback, first of which revolves around getting inside the actual case, and they use hex screws for the exterior panels that are not the most convenient to work with, plus you gotta be very careful as the screws protrude a little bit and can easily scratch a surface. Here's me spending over 3 minutes just to open the main side panel and then the extra top piece that lets me put a graphics card, and I understand the nature of compact ITX enclosures and the inevitable compromises on the assembly process, but man, something really should be done to simplify this first step. And so here are all the pieces. It's powder coated steel steel, quite heavy for so little material, but it feels incredibly solid, nothing is flexing, and we've got ourselves a mysterious situation, as the first panel arrived with a 6 welding point piece broken that can easily withstand the weight of a monitor and more, and we're still investigating how this happened, but this uniquely highlighted why this insertion piece matters. Alright, so we've received the replacement panel, it's fully intact now, and when it's installed it goes like so, and so the insertion cover goes behind the GPU, and it actually serves two main purposes. One, it prevents the actual metal here from getting too hot based on the heat from the backplate of the GPU, and two, because this insertion cover fills in that space behind the GPU, it allows less air to be accumulated there, and therefore it actually improves performance and cooling of the GPU, and we'll talk about that later. But from these three pieces alone, you might question the high price, which is fair, but remember, it's not for the mass production, and that increases the cost significantly. And along with the cover, they also sent us this, the bag that's supposed to fit the Sentry, and it's actually quite exciting. Imagine going to a LAN party, people are going to be probably thinking like you have a nice gaming laptop in there, but not today. You've got a fully fledged gaming PC inside this bag, which is quite awesome. The possibility of something that is portable in this form factor that is as powerful to go inside the bag like that. That's pretty exciting. Now the bag is optional, but included accessories are this flexible PCIe extension, a removable USB 3 hub, 3 brackets for drive mounts, and more screws with plastic case feet for horizontal orientation, and these hole covers if you're sticking with a vertical mount. Now in terms of the layout, it is quite similar to the RVZO2, so we have a power supply with the motherboard in the bottom chamber and a GPU above in its own compartment. There are no dust filters here, and I always choose filtration on a tiny case because getting inside isn't very easy to clean, but the body is steel, so magnetic filters are not totally out of question. And I wanted to leave my full assembly process here. As you can see, I was following the very clear and excellent instructions manual. Very good job on that, Dr. Zaber. And this build is like almost a deja vu moment with the RVZO2. The layout, the steps to insert the hardware, even the compatibility with various hardware felt very familiar. I installed a non-modular SFX power supply that has short cables already, which is great. I used a low-profile Intel CPU cooler and stashed all the unused cables in the pocket above the power supply without any issues. The PCI extension is flexible and is secured between two metal pieces, and Zaber made it flexible on purpose to prevent any potential damage to the motherboard slot from heavy cards if a hard extension is used, like we saw on the RVZO2, but this extension is very well secured to the case, so that doesn't worry me at all. For storage in the midsection, 2 SSDs can be installed. It's a fairly simple process, but make sure to wire everything underneath the SSD first, since the second SSD spills over the motherboard area, and you also have to be mindful of the drive bracket and its potential clearance issues with higher CPU coolers. In my case, the CPU socket is closer to the PCI lane, and only 37mm low-profile coolers are compatible, something that the Sentry configuration tool clearly indicates, which is so cool. Again, props to Dr. Zaber for fantastic documentation. If you need more storage, the dual brackets can be used to house 4 more SSDs that with the GPU under 200mm will slot in that free space. As for maximum compatible GPUs, anything up to 305mm or 12 inches will fit, which is pretty great, but keep in mind the extra height needed for the power cables. The GPU compartment is actually quite open, so if non-blower style cards are used, the entire case will share that heat. And so now comes the not so fun part of closing the side panel. Again, took me 3 minutes to do this, making sure that all screws are first aligned properly and then making sure they're all tightened. Then comes the base, which is toolless. You just align and slide the mount screws towards the front, nice and easy, and the Sentry looks complete. It's a very satisfying moment having to be finished with an ITX case of this size. My next order of business was to figure out the cooling and how well a GTX 1060 Founders Edition and the i5 690K would handle being inside the Sentry. Now with the panel off, the GPU hit 82 degrees Celsius with the 1810 MHz both in vertical and horizontal positions. With the broken side panel, the one without the insertion cover, the GPU remained at 82 degrees Celsius, downclocking to 1734 MHz in vertical and 1683 MHz in horizontal positions. With the replacement panel, we hit a constant 1810 MHz on the core, the case standing vertically, while horizontally the clocks dropped a little bit to 1709 MHz, both remaining at 82 degrees Celsius. The CPU got to 69 degrees Celsius at 3.9 GHz without throttling, which is a thumbs up in my books, which just shows that with appropriate hardware this case is designed for, you don't really compromise on cooling nor the performance. And the case being only 7 liters in volume, it still feels space efficient to accommodate the hardware it's designed for, and even supporting larger SFX-L power supplies, but you might need to remove the fan grill for the side panel to close. CPU coolers up to 47mm in height are supported as long as the socket itself plays nice with the SSD bracket in the middle, and then black hex screws are included for the USB hub at the front, so everything is uniform. Here I just used the silver ones. My main point of feedback would be dust filtration. It needs to be present, at least somehow integrated, and the side panel on-off process has to be minimized and simplified. But the Sentry achieves its purpose perfectly, to be a console-size ITX case with unique character, fine cooling, but as I mentioned earlier, this being a community-driven project, only those patient ITX enthusiasts are likely to be their customers.
Access granted. Sentry Gaming Station online.
But if you need something immediate in this sort of form factor, the RVZ02 or the Note 202 are your best options right now. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next video.